Sounds like you're wedded to Him.
No, I'm not.
Well, is the sinner's prayer that he preaches in the Bible?
Yes, it is.
Where is it? I'll give you $1,000 tonight if you can reference it.
Well, he preaches the Bible.
Well, how about he gives it to you? He's your preacher.
He preaches.
I can give that to you.
Go ahead and give
the publican prayed, "Be merciful to me, a sinner," and he went away justified.
He doesn't.
Now, ma'am, Luke 18 is the publican, and he is already a child of God. He is in the temple. He and the other individual are both at the temple. He is not a lost person like you or I would be, a Gentile. Now, how does that end up being the sinner's prayer? And if that were really the sinner's prayer, don't you think some of these other people would have come on with that for that reference?
I know what I see and hear.
Let me make a statement about that.
Everyday life with my minister. I see it in him.
Let me make a statement. Can we move on? I see the other lines are lit up.
All right. Okay, ma'am. Thank you for calling.
Let me just make this statement very quickly. The publican standing afar off would not so much as lift up his eyes unto heaven, but he smote upon his breast, saying, "God, be merciful to me, a sinner." If you study, Zacchaeus was a publican, a tax collector. They were the lowest of the low, hated by society. If he's beating himself on the chest and saying, "God, be merciful to me, a sinner," present tense, then how was he already a Christian?
No one said he was a Christian. We said he was a child of God. If you read in Luke 19, you'll find Zacchaeus is a person who is of Israel too. That's why we're here, friends. We're constantly helping you to see that these people are not outside of Christ. They were Jews. They were in a relationship with God, already born into that relationship. And that's why Jesus told Nicodemus that you have to be born again. Being a son of Abraham is not what's going to save you. You have to be the Israel of God, Galatians 6:16. And the way that happens is Galatians chapter 3, verse 27. You're baptized into Christ. Then you become fellow heirs with Christ, and you're not fellow heirs until you've been baptized. So, friend, that's not the sinner's prayer. You got another call.
If you study the baptism into Christ, you will find that's not even mentioning water. It's not even a relationship to water.
What was that now?
It's the baptism of the Spirit.
I want to get back to this. John 3?
I want to get back to this a moment ago. God, be merciful to me, a sinner. I'll tell you, this is what Jesus said. This man went down to his house justified rather than the other. One prayed, "God, be merciful to me, a sinner." The other did not pray, "God, be merciful to me, a sinner." The one who prayed, "God, be merciful to me, a sinner," walked away saved. He walked away justified. And the word justified simply would imply the payment of his sins were made.
Now, friends, we just had Brian Edwards justify you before the blood was shed. And that's what we're talking about. You were justified, he said, before the blood was shed. What we're asking today is, how do you be justified after the blood is shed? And you're not going to find it in Luke 18. He's already said you have to confess with your mouth your belief that Jesus raised from the dead, Romans 10:10. You cannot have both. This person didn't know that Jesus had died because he hadn't died. He's justified before the blood. That's not your sinner's prayer.
He knew he was a sinner and Jesus was the Savior.
If you want that for your sinner's prayer, you go ahead. But that's before Jesus shed His blood, and it certainly isn't the same as Romans 10:10, which he's already referenced tonight.
I do agree with that.
Okay. You're on what does the Bible say?